Rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Wendy, you want to take the roll call?
Mike Hobson.
My computer says he's on chat.
Yeah.
Mike, can you hear us?
Mike says in his chat here that he has no volume.
Yeah,
Mike Hobson.
Yes.
He raised his hand that he's here.
Okay. Michelle Black. I'm here. Dan Schweddy.
here,
Carolyn Ertley.
Here.
Jessica Stickles.
here,
Deborah Nelson.
here.
Don Vanny.
Here.
Okay. Madam Mayor, I'd like to move for the approval of the consent agenda consisting of the minutes, April 20th and April 27th council meetings.
Jessica,
Yep.
excuse me, can we just move for the approval of the entire agenda? We'll get to the consent agenda next.
Sure, yes. I move to approve the agenda.
Second question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? Okay, and once again, we didn't have any members of the public that requested to speak this evening.
Now for the
Hello, anybody here?
We can hear you, Mike.
Okay, so now I move to approve the consent agenda consisting of the minutes of the April 20th and 27th, 2020 council meetings and accounts payables. Approval of claims check 99559 through 99639 dated April 21st, 2020 through May 4th, 2020 for $690,334.41.
Second.
Question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we'll move right into our new business this evening. Mike, can you hear us?
Volume, I think you can talk.
Yeah.
You can do hand gestures, I saw that. Okay, so we'll move into the new business item. And the first is the appointment to the Civil Service Commission, James Treefry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. We initially put this on for workshop, and then the meeting tonight, I had made an error. Is the only commission that does not involve confirmation by city council according to the municipal code. So with that, it's on for tonight as an informational item to make a record, the appointment of Holly Sloan Buchanan to the Civil Service Commission. She was on last, she's on again tonight. Had to answer any additional questions council or the mayor might have. And with that, that is the limited presentation this evening.
All right, thank you. Does the council have any additional questions? I know it was very complimentary last week. I think it was a great choice.
It'll be a welcomed addition.
Agreed.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you, James. So we'll move on to our next item, which is the professional services agreement with Dow LLC for construction management services for the 2020 airport improvement projects. It looks like we have Marty Ray and Lorene Robinson with us.
Yeah, Madam Mayor and council people, this presentation for the professional service agreement with Dow for the construction
I have
management
no
services.
volume.
Sorry.
That was Mike Hobson speaking.
Okay. For construction management services for the 2020 airport improvements project. And we're also asking for a resolution rejecting all bids on the bid opening that took place a couple of weeks ago. The 2020 airport improvement projects were approved as part of the airport's biennial budget and involved the following: design, construction, and construction management services for the runway 1634 lighting project, taxiway Bravo lighting project, and the taxiway Bravo overlay project. Staff is requesting that City Council approve the 2020 Airport Improvements Project Construction Management Professional Services Agreement with Dow Engineering. They are also our current engineer on call, and not to exceed $242,035. And airport, on the other item, the airport staff advertised the 2020 Airport Improvements Project in the Builders Exchange and Daily Journal. After bid opening, both bids contained discrepancies, and the staff is recommending rejection of all bids and rebidding the project. Yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. And council will handle this as two motions. They're each individual as listed on the CAB. Does anybody have any additional questions for Marty?
No.
No.
So I move to approve the 2020 Airport Improvements Projects Construction Management Professional Services Agreement with Dow Engineering in the amount not to exceed $242,035, and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement.
Second.
Question?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Okay. I move to approve the resolution rejecting all bids received for the 2020 Airport Improvements Project and direct staff to rebid the project.
Second.
Question?
Question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, I hope you get better bids the next time. Thank you, Marty.
Thanks. All right.
Okay, the next item is the amendment to the contract with Murray Smith for the Cascade Industrial Center project. Jim Kelly.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, council members. This item before you is to amend the existing Murray Smith contract so that they can design the Lift Station 16 force main, gravity sewer network, and water distribution systems out to 51st Avenue. Murray Smith is currently engaged with the city to design utilities south of SR 531 to serve the Cascade Industrial Center. This amendment is increasing their scope of work by having them design additional utilities for Cascade Industrial Center. These utilities will support, in part, 51st Avenue Urban Village Development, which is currently under design right now.
Okay, Jim, do you have a expenditure amount that you're requesting on this?
I do. I apologize, I did not update the CAB. The expenditure for this, the expenditure for this amendment number one is $138,611.
Thank you. Does council have any other additional questions?
Just to clarify, Jim, so that comes out of the Utilities Capital Fund, is that correct on the CAB?
That is correct. It'll come out of the Utilities Water and Sewer Fund.
Okay. Okay. So with no questions, Madam Mayor, I move to approve the amendment number one to the Murray Smith CIC contract and authorize the mayor to sign the contract pending final approval by the city attorney.
Second.
Mayor, I have an actual question. I was wondering, should we put the dollar amount in the motion?
I think that would be preferable.
All right,
It was $138,611.
got it. So shall I just add that in or make a new motion?
No, just go ahead and amend your motion. Put that in there.
So I will amend the motion to add the amount of $138,611 from the utilities fund into this motion.
Second.
Question?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you, Jim, Deborah. Thank you. So next up is the contract with Petite Incorporated to update the 173rd Street Phase 1 design.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor and council members. This item before you is a request to enter into contract with Petite Incorporated for updating the 173rd Phase 1 design. This project, 173rd Phase 1, started approximately 6 years ago, and it has lingered for a while. We are now ready to construct Phase 1. We do have a connecting road on the east end, 40th Avenue, and we will be upgrading the design on this to accommodate the temporary construction road that was installed by a contractor. We have to adjust our paving, our earthwork quantities. We will also be extending a water main from 40th Avenue all the way over to Smoky Point Boulevard. We will be installing street lights, and we will be installing a sound privacy fence for the neighbors, as well as a new below grade storm drain system, as opposed to having our rain gardens that we've been designing on most of our roadways.
Jim, I had just one question. Because I really, really want 173rd to go all the way through and before they start on 531. So where are we with Phase 2 and 3?
Phase 3 crosses the airport between 41st Avenue and Airport Boulevard. That has not moved forward there. I do hear occasionally of a development that might be going through there and pushing that roadway section forward. The Phase 2 section, which goes between where we're going to terminate Phase 1 all the way over to 43rd, there's a piece of property there. There's a couple pieces of property that we have not obtained yet.
Okay.
So we still have to get right of way, and through one of the properties, there's a neighbor that we still need to reach out with and enter into an agreement to procure right of way.
Okay, thank you.
Jim, I just got one question, and this just clerical or whatever, but should the amendment, should it say something about that sound barrier wall? Should it note something in there? Because I don't see no notice of it.
The sound barrier wall, it's in the scope of work. The amendment doesn't contain any of the street lights or the water main extension or any of the other work that's going to be going on in there to this project.
Okay, I was just wondering that, had that question.
No, that's a very important component of this project, is making sure we get a sound barrier wall that is not only a sound attenuating, but also provides privacy to those neighbors.
I had a budget question, seeing that it was budgeted for 2019. What was the line item? This might be a Paul question, that this would 73,000 would come from the 2020 budget.
It'll come out of the Transportation Improvement Fund.
Okay, thank you.
It was budgeted in 2019 and then the funds weren't used. So we just went back into that revenue fund. And so it's just, this action also is a budget amendment so that we can amend the budget for that amount.
Any additional questions?
Okay, I move to approve the contract with Petite Incorporated to update the design of the 173rd Street Phase 1 project and authorize the mayor to sign the contract pending final approval by the city attorney.
Second.
Question?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll move to our next item, which is an ordinance to extend the land use deadline due to the impacts of COVID-19. Mark Hayes.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Before you is a request to approve the ordinance to extend the land use processes for during this period of stay home, stay healthy. Protects the city and it protects the contractor also. City's viewpoint is we have a 120-day shot clock that we have to approve projects through with the contractor. If they're not able to work on their projects, they may exceed the period of time that is been set forth in a permit. So it actually helps for both parties.
Does anybody have any questions or comments on that?
Okay, then I move to approve the interim ordinance in response to the COVID-19 pandemic regarding land use actions and deadlines and declaring an emergency and authorize the mayor to sign the ordinance.
Second.
Question?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Thank you, Mark. Next up, we have an ordinance to amend certain sections of the Arlington Municipal Code, Chapter 20.64, relating to floodplain regulations and declaring an emergency. Mark Hayes.
Thank you very much, Mayor, members of the council. This ordinance is one that would typically come up during our process. FEMA evaluates their firm maps every so often, and when they make these updates to the flood insurance rate maps, they ask for every jurisdiction to make some changes to the language within the regulatory ordinance of the jurisdiction. And so that's what this is. This has to be done through an emergency process this time, simply because FEMA's schedule on this is a June 19th approval. Otherwise, we lose our rating in the flood insurance rate map system. And so that's why it's come before you as an emergency ordinance. But just to let you know, this is a normal process for amending this regulatory ordinance. So
Thank you, Mark. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
I just have one. Is there any place in the city limits that's going to have an impact, Mark?
it doesn't really have an impact. It's really language changes. The only impact that we have in a special flood hazard area is Island Crossing area, Howler Park, and Grasster property would be the three locations within our city that would really be affected by any of this. But the maps and the map changes themselves are not significant. So there's no impact on either current or future development. It's just a change in the language. It strengthens the language. And during this process, we did not have a flood hazard permit process within our ordinances. And so we took the opportunity in order to create that and include the flood hazard permit process in this ordinance with these language changes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Okay, I move to approve the emergency ordinance amending sections of Arlington Municipal Code, Chapter 20.64, floodplain development regulations, and authorize the mayor to sign the ordinance subject to the final review by the city attorney as to form.
Second.
Question?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you, Mark.
Great, thank you very much.
So move on to our next item, which is an ordinance to update code enforcement processes. Steve Pifel.
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of the council, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
This is, I won't go through quite as much detail as I did last Monday when I introduced this to you, but these two ordinances are before the council as a way of improving the tools available to law enforcement and to our code enforcement officer for dealing with challenging properties. It's divided into two ordinances. One defines nuisances and adds definitions that relate to properties that have chronic criminal activity and updates some of the other provisions of our code. The second ordinance essentially rewrites our code enforcement process, which encompasses not just these nuisance properties, but all other kinds of code violations within the city, and provides updated mechanisms for us to address some of those processes or some of those properties. So as set up before you, we have a motion that would approve both of those two ordinances. You can certainly split that up if you wanted to do that, but since they're really kind of related, I crafted a single motion that would allow you to move to adopt them together. I'm happy to answer any questions the council has, or.
Thank you. Steve, I still have a question on this. After
Yes.
reading through it several times, can you help me understand exactly what tools we're giving the staff? How does this change what they're currently doing?
Well, among other things, one of the major issues that we have are properties which are where people are harboring criminal activity by permitting people to come to their residence to engage in drug dealing activity or other sort of problematic issues that generate large numbers of phone calls. We have some properties which generate close to 100 phone calls a year to 911. As currently written, our code doesn't have provisions that allow us to approach these property owners and say, you're violating our code and we need this to stop. This gives us the mechanisms or the tools to be able to not only approach the property owners, but if those property owners do not cooperate with us, to go to court and ask a court to intervene to say, okay, property owner, now you really have to stop that. That's the principal additional tool that we're giving to law enforcement that I would say is going to make them the biggest difference.
Will that also affect commercial properties or extend to commercial properties as well?
It applies to any property within the city of Arlington. So it would cover both residential and non-residential properties, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Well, what a relief to people in those those neighborhoods that are experiencing that. That's just amazing for them.
I agree. So they will see quicker action by the police then to move it into a legal frame.
Yes.
Okay. I just needed to clarify that. Thank you. Go ahead, Jan.
I have a question. So I received a complaint from a citizen actually down the street from where I live here in Glen Eagle. And I guess my question is, what is defined as a nuisance? Their complaint is the backyard is open because it, is onto the golf course and everything. But the person who owns the home has a hot tub in the back and goes out completely nude all the time. And there's kids in the neighborhood and they haven't been able to get any help. And so when you say nuisances, would that be a nuisance or not?
Well, that is, it may be considered a nuisance to the neighbors, but as a practical matter, that's a different criminal violation. It would fall in some respects under the city's code provisions dealing with indecent exposure and those kinds of crimes. So generally speaking, I would say that's not within the character of nuisance, but if it generates repeat phone calls to the police, it might qualify under that scenario, but I would say more likely than not, law enforcement would address that through a different kind of criminal charge rather than going through this code enforcement process.
Okay, real good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Jan. Any other questions for Steve?
Okay. I move to approve the ordinance adopting Title VII of the Arlington Municipal Code regarding nuisances and the ordinance adopting a new Chapter 11.02 and repealing Chapter 11.01 of the Arlington Municipal Code regarding enforcement procedures and authorize the mayor to sign the ordinances.
Second.
Question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Steve, and thank you for answering the detailed questions.
Yep,
Yes,
thank you.
thank you, Steve.
Okay, our final item this evening is the camera systems for council chambers. Brian Terry.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, thanks for having me tonight. As you're aware, during the stay home, stay healthy order from Governor Inslee, the city council meetings have been conducted in Zoom format, and we've also been streaming them live to YouTube. IT is recommending that the streaming of these meetings continue permanently for better visibility to the public. But Zoom's probably not the best technology to do so. We're proposing a 3-camera system and a switcher that will stream directly to YouTube and record to TV 21. The cost of that equipment is $18,107. However, IT's requesting a not to exceed amount of $20,000 for the purchase of the system and any incidental purchases, such as cabling or connectors. This will be funded through the Comcast Public Education and Government Access Channel Capital Fund that's dedicated to the broadcast equipment that supports TV 21. And that fund currently has a balance of $33,962.41. The FCC requires cable franchises to support public access television, and these funds can only be used to support that function. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Brian. Anybody have any questions or comments?
Yes, I have a question on that one. The last planning commission meeting was, I tuned in and it was on YouTube. But this is different from that. Would planning commission also be part of this?
We're currently being streamed on YouTube as well. And then down the road with a camera system, when you guys are back in the council chambers, we'll also be streaming those to YouTube as well.
So I think it could work, Mike, for any commission meeting that has held in council chambers, and planning commission typically is when we're not at a stay-at-home order.
Okay, thank you.
So a 3-camera system, then does that mean there's 3 cameras pointed different ways, or there's 3 cameras that will pick up who's speaking?
So we'll have presets defined for each council member and staff so that we can quickly zoom to those spots when they're speaking, and we'll switch those out in and out, much like a television production studio.
So it will be done manually?
It will be done manually, yes.
Any other questions or comments?
No, I think it's absolutely a fantastic idea.
I do too.
Watch, yeah.
I move to approve the budget amendment for the purchase of cameras and equipment to live stream broadcast public meetings in the amount not to exceed $20,000.
Second.
Question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, you're all going to become YouTube stars.
Oh, goody.
Oh,
Paul, do we have any administrative report this evening?
I'll just bring up one thing is that last week, Governor Inslee showed everybody his 4-phase approach to opening up the economy again and reopening businesses. And so we're working to make sure that on our end that we're supporting that as much as possible, including the services that the city provides to the public. The directors and I were on a Zoom meeting this morning talking about what we needed to do to make sure that our facilities and our staff were ready when we can reopen the city facilities to the community and be able to keep the community safe and our employees. So that just wanted to reassure council that's in the works now, and we'll be ready when the time comes.
Thank you. Great. All right, it's time for our comments from council members, and let me just go around the screen. Don, do you have any comments this evening?
No comments from me, but just one question, Barb, is have your local group of businesses and stuff met anymore since last meeting?
Our next meeting is Friday. We meet every 2 weeks, and I've met with the county group, two different county groups since then as well too. Everybody seems to be moving in the right direction, trying to figure out what it is businesses need to open to keep their employees and their customer base safe, and looking at ways that as government we can support that.
Yeah, because that's a lot of questions I get from the citizens is where are we at for opening up stuff? Of course, I says, well, we got our plan.
Yeah, we've got the phase plan. I feel good that at least businesses know where they fall in the phase. So when phase 2 opens up, we can all get haircuts again. But what we don't have is the governor was clear that he couldn't put timelines on that. What we are watching is Snohomish County, we still have not stopped the spread of the virus. You see the numbers I send you every day from the Department of Health, and we are not we haven't had 5 days with no increases in cases yet.
Yeah, exactly.
So we need to ask all of the citizens, as hard as this is and as frustrating as it is, to get back to where we want to be open with our businesses, we have to stop that spread. So to be diligent.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Jan?
I just had a quick question. If one of the council people wanted to meet with you or Paul in person, is that possible yet?
As long as we stay 5 feet apart. Paul and I are very diligent about practicing social distancing. So
Oh yeah, I am too. No, I just wanted to know if that was even possible. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Jump down to Marilyn.
I have no questions or comments tonight.
Okay. Mike, can you hear us?
Yes, I finally have my sound working. Thank you. Hey, I want to implement our rule of procedure that we adopted here a little bit ago, 4.3 and 4.4 exact to be precise. I have a couple of items I'd like to put on next week's workshop agenda. And they have to do with what we were just talking about, the Washington State emergency orders regarding the COVID pandemic. And I have 2 items I'd like to put up for, it's actually under that category, but 2 items for deliberation. And the first item, I'm just going to read what it is, nothing beyond that. One is a resolution establishing a moratorium on small business and nonprofit organization evictions in Arlington due to non-payment of rent or expiration of existing leases during the Washington State emergency order or the phases thereafter as they have evolved. So that's one item. And I should say during that time and 120 days thereafter. So businesses have a chance to survive. And then once they can have customers of some level, they can then build up to start paying their leases or their rents. And then the second thing I'd like to deliberate with council is a resolution authorizing the city administrator to allocate emergency end of balance funds to the Arlington Community Resource Center, the Arlington Food Bank, or the Social Services Flex Fund as required. And I'm thinking in terms of emergency. We discussed emergency a little bit a week or 2 back concerning a pipe break, water pipe break. And we kind of went through, there was a financial policy that dealt with this. So when it comes to this, I'm thinking in terms of emergency allocation of funds, not just a regular, appropriation or anything like that, but just that they could come to Paul and say, boy, we've got a big problem here. We could really use some help. And then Paul would have the authority then to allocate some funds. We do have, I checked with Kristen the other day, we have a general fund balance of $2,439,807, restricted by policy, 1.5 million, but that leaves us $939,807 in unrestricted funds. Again, I know that the city is going to be under extreme pressure with finances concerning all this. So that's why I just think we should have it there, but only under emergency circumstances, just in case. So those 2 items I'd like to deliberate next week and get everybody's opinion on it and go from there.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Michelle?
I have a question, Barb or Paul or whomever. I was reading today, the title was Marysville Cares Small Business Grant Program launched. I guess it's funding block grants. Do we have some? No, we don't. We don't have access to something like that.
We're not a large enough city to get our own community block grant funding. So only Everett and Marysville qualify in Snohomish County, and then the county gets the rest of the funds.
Oh, okay. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah. Jessica?
Question about Mike's first proposal. My understanding is that evictions for all were included in the not allowed to evict order. Is that accurate?
So we'll turn these over to the city attorney to get that clarification for you on the legal grounds of that.
Were you thinking in terms of we're duplicating something from that the state has already done? Is that what you're driving out there?
Yeah.
Yeah, if we are to a point, not to exactly. I think he only talked in terms of residential and not business, but it doesn't hurt to repeat the lead that the state takes. And I see that that's happened already in terms of utility waivers, late fee waivers and things of that nature. So what you're saying is somewhat correct, but not totally, and it shouldn't preclude us going ahead and making such a statement and letting our citizens know that we are doing something.
I see what you're saying. So you're requesting that we put a hold on allowing business landowners evict. Is that correct?
Yeah, they're landlords, disallowing the landlord to evict a tenant, either a leasehold for the case of a business or a renter.
Gotcha. Okay, and so that's going to legal to review first before we discuss it, Barb?
I think Paul will always run these things by Steve Peifel so that you have that perspective when you discuss them.
We try to put as much information together, but before we discuss items as we can. So we'll do what we can between now and next week.
We're just getting Mike's information tonight, so we'll have
Yeah.
a week to sort of get the perspective on that, which we always greatly appreciate. We want the staff that's going to be involved, and we need to understand if we do these, how does the process work? Where's the enforcement? Where does dispute get handled?
So I'd be, and I don't know like exactly how we're supposed to reply to this because it's still somewhat new, but I know when a council member brings forward an idea, you wanted us to express whether we agreed to do more research on this or not, or are you just gonna do that?
It's the council's wishes. If the rest of the council wants us to spend time on these items, then we will spend time on them.
I'd like to hear what Jessica's thinking.
So I'm thinking I would like to hear about the follow-up of the first idea. The second idea with the emergency funds for the Arlington Resource Center, I don't see a huge need for that since we do have a balance. And I feel like that's stepping out of the city's role. So that's just my input for those two, and I don't have anything else to add. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Jessica. Deborah?
I'm looking at Mike's suggestions too. And so going with number 2, I would need a more clear definition of emergency because Mike, you alluded to the water emergency. So that's utilities. To me, that's a clear category, and also families without water. And so the other, when you're talking the resource center and the food bank, that, and also you quoted all that money sounding like we have lots of money, but we really don't. All of that money is designated into different parts of the city. So it's not just sitting there doing nothing or not waiting for anything. So I feel like we need to really look at the differences of where that money would actually come from and what it would impact. So if we take that money from somewhere, does that not pay somebody's salary? Does it not clean the streets? You know what I'm saying? So I want to know what the effect is from something like that.
Well, I'll bow to Kristen on that, but as my understanding was, it was an end of fund balance. These are monies that are currently left over that we haven't spent. And I'm not saying we're going to spend $939,000 or anything anywhere near that. I'm just saying that there are funds there, and that if we had an emergency crop up, let's say the food bank said, hey, we're out of food. We don't have a single hot dog for anybody here. Can you help us out? That might be an example, a kind of an absurd example, but kind of an example of an emergency situation that again would be the city administrator's call. He would make the call. yeah, this is an emergency and I can do something, I'm authorized to do something about it. So that's kind of that's my thinking on it.
So, but, and I don't know, Mayor, interrupt me if I'm going too far with this discussion and if you want to wait till next week, but my concern is if I recall, we did set aside an amount of money for the resource center. And again, I'm always very cautious about where taxpayer money is going, being gifted. So I have hesitation on that one, but I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, do you want to discuss it at the workshop, Deborah? There is some more information we can bring forward about some grants these organizations have received and what is happening with them during COVID.
If it could paint a better picture so we would all have good understanding, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's worthy of everybody knowing how these organizations that are serving the population are faring. And I probably get that information much more than you guys do. So I'm happy to help them have them help me write a report.
Thank you.
I also have a one-page description of these two items that I wasn't going to go into tonight. I just wanted to bring up the topics. But if you would like to, I can send those to you if you'd like to take a look at them, and might give you a little better idea what I have in mind.
Yeah, Paul and I would love to have them. That'd be great. Now, does anybody else have any objections to putting this on a workshop? Either one or two?
No, I'm good because I'd like to hear some things that we don't know about their funding, because I've got concerns about how they're doing.
So we'll do as much as we can, and I'm not discouraging this. We'll talk about it at Monday's workshop, but I just want council to remember that the workshop is a week away, but in order for us to get them in your packets, it gives me till Wednesday. So I have Tuesday and Wednesday to try to get your packets out Thursday, or Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, if I push it out till Friday to get your packets out. But we don't have a week to do this. We have just a few days. So the information is going to be limited to what we can put together in that time period. So if you need more, we may have to discuss it. You may have to give me direction so I can have staff work on it for follow-up.
Yeah,
That's a good reminder, Paul. Thank you.
I feel like the first part, Mike, that Steve had given us some information on that at one point. I can't remember if this week or last week, but I would be interested definitely in hearing more about that. And then I actually am interested in the emergency funds in the event that there are emergency funds if the resource center would need it. So I would definitely like to talk about that some more. And then like Barb, you said if they're already getting grants, that'd be great for us to know all that information too.
Yeah, it'd be nice for them to hear from them what their needs are rather than us assuming what they are.
Right.
Yep.
Marilyn?
I'm okay with it.
Okay. Have I heard from anybody? Anybody have any objections? I think Paul has his marching order. I will ask in the future, we're really busy because we are under a state emergency. The more time frame you can give and share information, it's really helpful for the staff because they have regular things on their schedules and meetings for the next 2 days as well. And this is going to include contacting some outside organizations for information.
Do we have a lot of stuff on our agenda for our next workshop already? Do we know?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't remember what's on there right now. We have there's certainly other discussion items.
Is there anything else? Everybody?
Hey, Paul, just real quick, you were saying retreat in a week or so. We're talking the 1st, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss something.
The workshop is what I was referring to, not
okay. Okay.
All right. I think that's it.
That's it.
That's it.
You're muted, Jessica.
Madam Mayor, I move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Good to see you all.
Good night.